Hi everyone, and welcome to today's General Hospital recap. As always, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos or recaps. I got the Sabrina video up this afternoon, so if you haven't already seen that, go check that out. And I did film the news segment that I've been planning, but I didn't like how it came out, so I'm going to film it again. And also, really exciting, I mentioned the Sabrina video, but I'm going to mention here, on Saturday, randomly on Facebook, I had seen someone in town over say that 50 Cent was in town signing his new vodka, and me and Cassie met 50 Cent. There's the picture right there. I've since retired that t-shirt because 50 Cent touched it, so it's just going to get cut up and put in my scrapbook, but oh my goodness!
Cut up?
Yeah, I'm going to cut the back out where he... Well, it won't all fit in the scrapbook, so I have to cut the part out where he touched.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my back hit nothing after he touched it. Okay, you can ask Cassie, but oh my god, we met 50 Cent! Look how awesome! We met 50 Cent! And I have his vodka. So anyway, I haven't tried it yet, but it is signed, and I'm just... Anyway, today's General Hospital recap. It's Monday. We've since passed all that, so let's get right to it. At Crimson, Maxie can't find her wedding binder, and then Nathan comes in. No, you have to go home, my god!
Oh my god!
Turns out Nina has the wedding binder because Nina wants to do a photo shoot for Crimson and put it in the magazine. So not just like, oh, Maxie will take her own pictures and send them in. Like, no, make this a whole magazine affair. So Maxie doesn't want to relinquish control of her wedding, and Nina's like, no, you won't be. Just, you know, the photo shoot. And by the way, here are all my ideas. So then Spinelli comes in. And Maxie and Spinelli go in the hallway to talk, and Nina asks Nathan if he's like okay with this whole thing, and Nathan is like, well, you know, it was that whole Spinelli mess was a while ago, and like he's Georgie's father, and like we're all gonna have to live with each other, so yeah, it's fine. So apparently Spinelli went digging into Claudette's past when Claudette first got brought up, and Maxie's like, oh yeah, I have to get you back in the loop, and tells him like everything. So she thinks it's all out in the opening, and he's like, but wait, there's more. And I'm like, tell us, please. So it turns out the more is actually nothing. Like, nothing. There's nothing. For the past, like, decade or so, between all this happening, there is no trace of Claudette online at all.
Oh my god!
So Maxie thinks it's a really good thing, and, you know, because it means she hasn't been scheming or doing anything evil. But Spinelli's like, no. Like, I found nothing. Like, you know, maintaining a zero record online is close to impossible. Trust me, I tried it for a few years. Didn't work, as you can tell. So apparently she didn't even like a YouTube clip or anything, so I take that personally. And someone deliberately and thoroughly deleted her from the internet, which is pretty much like impossible. I like the sound effect. See, it's very, very, you know, interactive. So Nina asks Nathan about his opinions for the wedding, like where does he want to have it, and he's like, well, Maxie likes making the decisions, and like he really doesn't care. So Nathan finds her book of baby names, and it's like 10 years old, because she's like, oh, it's for a story, and he's like, this is really all Nina, like what, you're just buying old books? So he wants her to tell him that she's not going outside the law for a baby. So she's very indignant for someone who was doing exactly what he asked. Which is a theme on this show. I feel like she gets it from Carly, because Carly is the latest offender of that. So at Kelly's, Claudette and Griffin meet. Apparently he called for the meeting. I wonder why. And he wants to know her agenda, and he asks her point blank. And as soon as I wrote that, I realized that was a really poor choice of words because it's Griffin. So she tries to steer the conversation, but he keeps it on track. It's basically like a tug of war of who's going to steer this conversation. So he was like, well, I want to try and help you, and she's like, only if you admit you have a god complex and you need to save everyone, and like, were you trying to save me all those years ago? And just tell me there's a chance for us, Griffin. Tell me there's a chance. There's no chance, lady. You're out of your mind. So that, you know, he's like, look, we meant something to each other once a long time ago, but leave Nathan and Maxie alone. Like, get all Chris Crocker in there. That is like the second time I brought him up in a YouTube video. in like the past week. So Griffin is paid, Chris Crocker. Griffin, the leave Britney alone guy. He's since really cool. If you follow him on Facebook. Anyway, so Griffin is paged to the hospital for a meeting, probably about the hospital killer. Oh, he doesn't know. Oh, he's gonna be so sad. Does he know? No, he doesn't know. He wasn't a responder on that. So their meeting went absolutely nowhere. But, A for effort, Griffin. I see what you're trying to do. So at the Metro Court, Carly tells Michael that she's sorry for what she said about Sabrina, and it's just, she didn't mean it, but he's angry, and, I think I forgot the part where Michael tells Carly that Sabrina is dead, so none of that really matters, because Carly's obstacle is gone, so of course she's sorry, and Carly's like, no, and, Michael kind of twists her words a little bit, Nell intervenes, and Carly doesn't want him to push her away, but he looks like he's going to, because he's mad, and he wants her to be mad at, and I don't blame him, none of that's said in judgment, trust me, so Nell seems angry, for Carly, but Carly's she's taking it, she's been here before, and, she knows that Michael's been through a lot, this isn't the first time he's lost someone that close to him, R.I.P. Abby, and, Carly knows, she has to wait for Michael to come to her, and she thinks there is something she can do about it, though. So at the courthouse, Alexis collapses, Julian catches her, and then Sam gets Alexis away from Julian as fast as humanly possible. So Paul asks Alexis if she's alright, and she says she just needs some air, and Sonny wants to be put on the stand. So Alexis tells Sam that she doesn't know what's going on with her, and she wants to try and fix it. So Julian wants to make sure Alexis is okay, and Scott's like, no, this is a gift, don't go anywhere, they're gonna, think you're escaping, stay. So Paul tells Sonny that he's not going to call him to testify, but Sonny's like, I'll take the risk, and Sonny's like, Paul's trying to talk him out of it. So Sonny does wind up taking the stand, and he testifies as to what happened on the pier. It's pretty damning testimony, and now it's time for cross-examination. Scott checks with Julian of who stabbed him because he wants to use that to discredit Sonny, but Julian does say that Sonny stabbed him, even though we all know he knows that Sonny didn't stab him. Sonny was in front of him. The stab came from behind, I believe. I don't remember. Anyway, so Alexis does see that, I believe. So Scott starts the cross-examination. And when he asks about his occupation, Sonny's like, coffee importer, distributor. Oh, I just opened a place called Perks. You might have been there. So I was like, oh, that's smart. Tie himself into the community. So Scott gets focused on Sonny's gun. Why did you have a gun? Why do you have a gun? You're a convicted murderer. Why do you have a gun? But, it's America. There's guns everywhere. Everyone has a gun, pretty much. So what are you going to do? I don't feel like that's the thing to focus on because it's not weird. So Scott brings up Sonny's conviction, and Sonny brings up his pardon, but Sonny was convicted of murder, and I feel like had he not had that pardon, then he couldn't carry a gun, but since he was pardoned, he can, because a pardon is this never happened kind of thing. So if you're outside the U.S. and you don't have pardons, I don't know who, just in case you don't know. Scott asks if Julian hurt Sonny in any way that night, and Sonny says, he messed up my new sport jacket, and at that point I just started busting out laughing, because that's the funniest thing I've heard all week. So Scott, it really was, I used even the little laugh emojis, I don't know if you can see them. Did you see the laugh? There they are. It's the funniest thing I've heard all week. So Scott tries to paint the picture that Julian was the only one seriously injured that night. But Carly comes in, and Sonny is excused off the stand, but he gets off the stand anyway. And Paul calls Sabrina Santiago as a witness. You know she won't come, Paul. You know she's not there. Don't.
He killed her.
Yeah. So, he doesn't know where she is. Where could Sabrina be? I don't know. Dead in a hospital? So Carly informs the court that Sabrina Santiago is dead and that she was murdered earlier today. So Carly tells Sonny Michael was there when they found her, and they wind up leaving. Alexis wants to be recalled, and Paul's like, no. Absolutely not. I'm like, really? Now that she's feeling better, she can't be recalled? But, the damage was already done, whether she was recalled or not. So, this part bothers me. I'm just going to preface that because I'm going to get really angry halfway into talking. So, Paul wants Sabrina's deposition entered into the record. And the judge, first Scott is like, I'm not okay with that. And the judge is like, well, it's instances like this, like why we do depositions beforehand. And then Scott is like, well, with all due respect, I can't cross-examine a document or a deposition. And the judge is like, I'm not allowing this, I'm not going to allow this into the record. Okay. Which is it? Is it, oh, this is why we do this for instances like this where the witness can't testify because I don't know they're dead? Or is it, oh, you can't cross-examine, so I'm not allowing it? You can't have both. It really bothers me because it makes no sense.
Grounds for appeal.
It makes no sense because he couldn't cross-examine before when she initially said that. So would a lesser lawyer who wouldn't have fought her on it allowed it into the record and then it's allowed? Like, it really bothers me.
Does it bother you?
It really bothers me. Like, I'm livid right now. And I had whiskey in my dinner, and we're not sure if the alcohol totally cooked out, so that could have an effect on today's recap. If you like semi-drunk recaps, let me know. We'll make it a regular thing. No, my liver says we won't. Paul says the people rest. He doesn't recall Alexis, and Scott rests too. He doesn't even mount a defense. So remember when German hospital trials used to last like weeks, if not like months? Like the Sonny, Michael, Claudia one lasted a really long time because that's around the time I started watching religiously again, and it was like the whole few months that I started watching. It lasted
2 days.
Not even. It lasted so long. A recast happened. That's when Chad Duell came into play, and they brought in Claire, the federal. Yeah, when the trial started, it was Drew Garrett, and then when Dante went to Corinthos Island. To find Michael, he found Chad Duell as Michael. That's how that whole thing happened. And poor Chad Duell, one of his first storylines was like the jail storyline, which is like still to this day probably one of the heaviest storylines that's happened in recent GH. And like that's what he had to start off with. Anyway, remember Claire? I wonder if she's still in Alaska after, like, they sent her away because she was disgraced and all that. Anyway, so Paul brings up The Wire in the closing argument because Scott can't object to that, even though he's throwing the case anyway. And it's a pretty okay closing. It's not crazy good. It's, whatever. But it was a pretty okay case, even though he had, like, no evidence. So Scott's closing, his shtick basically is that he didn't mount a defense because he didn't need to, and the prosecution has no case. There's no hard evidence. Really, the only thing they have fingerprints on is a plastic bag. And Scott's like, are we really going to send a man to jail for touching a plastic bag? Yes. Yes. That's what we're going to do. Send him to jail.
Belongs in jail.
At the park, Michael is with Teddy. Nell is watching them. And he tells Teddy Sabrina's gone, even though Teddy doesn't, like, really understand what that means, Yeah, he is. And then he sees Nell watching them. So she says it's a semi-chance meeting. Like, she knows, like, this park is near, blah, 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 blah. So he tells her all about Sabrina and Teddy. And Nell tells him Carly really was talking to her about how she wishes she could have taken it all back before she found out that Sabrina had passed. Like, that really was honest, and that she really does regret it. So Nell says Teddy was so lucky to have Sabrina for the time that he did. Like, she didn't really have great parents, and like, and Michael asks for a minute, and he tells Teddy he's like, look, your memories, your memory of your mother will fade, but she'll still always be with you, and she'll come back to you in your dreams. And I'm like, this whole thing is just so sad. And now end scene. So Nina tells Nathan she's given up on actively trying to find a baby, but if one ends up on her doorstep, she won't say no. And Nathan's like, but you will call the proper authorities. And she's like, fine, whatever, I'll call the proper authorities. And she says she won't try to buy any infants, like it's some big, like, look, Nina, I'm not buying any infants right now. It's really not that hard.
They don't just wind up on your doorstep. It doesn't work that way.
Well, she should hang out at, like, a firehouse or something where they have, like, the no questions asked, the safe havens. Yeah. Just hang out in front of a safe haven and one will drop in your lap.
Oh, that's a good idea. You should tell her.
So Spinelli is keeping the investigation open, and Maxie wants to tell Nathan since they're not keeping secrets, and Spinelli's like, well, he's not really a fan of me, so he might not be thrilled that, I'm looking in on his ex-wife, an internet-wise, not like in a weird, creepy way that he could get prosecuted for. So Nathan comes out of the office, and Maxie tells Nathan that, look, Spinelli was investigating Claudette beforehand, and, he found nothing, and, she tells him everything, no trace of her anywhere. What season 4 premiere? Oh, whatever. So Nathan seems okay with it, but he has to go. So, alright, that's fine. So then Claudette calls Nathan and says she needs to tell him something. And Nina is still looking through her baby book, so not sure she's quite done with that yet. Nell had texted Carly to let her know where Michael was and how he was. And Carly says the person he needs the most will be with him soon. Sonny goes to Michael's side, of course. The jury is off to deliberate, and Sam comes over to Julian and just slaps him across the face. And it's like a good slap, too. Like, good. William DeVry, Julian is all like, just total, like, it's a good slap. And she says, look, I'm disgusted with you, and I think she knows he's going to walk, so she doesn't mention jail. But she says that he hopes he spends the rest of his life worrying about who's going to hold the dagger to his throat. And then Alexis does ask Paul, and she thinks he's going to walk. And then there's a look between Alexis and Julian, like a knowing look, and she's like scared because like she knows that the whole thing went horribly. So that is it for today's General Hospital recap. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow, probably around this time. If not, I'll try to get it up earlier, but I don't know. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for more General Hospital, and I hope you have a great night. Bye!